Section 1. Christmas Eve is supposed to feel safe. The lights are warm. The food is on the table. Families laugh over dinner while snow settles quietly outside. But sometimes the most terrifying moments don't begin with screams. They begin with something as ordinary as a doorknob, slowly turning when nobody should be there. Even now, every Christmas Eve brings that sound back to me. At the time, my family lived in an old duplex. It wasn't a large place, but it was home. My parents, grandparents, and a couple of my uncles from my mom's side of the family had gathered for our annual Christmas Eve dinner. The table was crowded with turkey, stuffing, potatoes, and all the dishes people usually expect during the holiday season. We weren't a big family, but that almost made the evening feel more personal. Outside, snow covered the streets, muting every sound beyond the windows. Our neighbors lived on the other side of the duplex. It was a man and his girlfriend. They mostly kept to themselves, and we rarely spoke beyond the occasional greeting. There was one strange feature about the house that always bothered me. A door connected both halves of the duplex. It wasn't a normal interior door. It had an unusual locking system that required both sides to unlock it before it could be opened, and it could swing either direction. I'd only ever seen it open once, before those neighbors moved in. Since then, it had remained locked on our side every single day. Nobody thought much about it anymore. Until that Christmas Eve. Halfway through dinner, while everyone was talking and passing plates around, a metallic click interrupted the conversation. Then another. Every head slowly turned. The doorknob separating our homes was moving, not shaking, turning, back and forth, slowly, deliberately. It continued for what felt like forever, at least 10 long seconds. Whoever was on the other side wasn't testing it by accident. They were trying to open it. Nobody at the table said a word. The only sounds were the ticking clock, our breathing, and that relentless twisting of the handle. Section 2. My dad stood up without saying anything. The room had gone completely silent as he walked towards the connecting door. Every step seemed louder than the last against the wooden floor. He rested one hand firmly on the lock and the other around the doorknob. "You need something?" he called through the door. Nothing. Not even the sound of someone breathing. The silence on the other side somehow felt worse than hearing a reply. After waiting several seconds, my dad looked back at the rest of us. He unlocked our side and carefully pulled the door open. Complete darkness. The neighboring unit was pitch black. No lights, no movement, no sound. It was only around 6 in the evening, and we were certain we'd seen our neighbors leave earlier that day. My dad and I hurried to a window overlooking the driveway. Their car was gone. At first, everyone reached the same conclusion. Maybe someone had broken into their home. Trying to do the right thing, my dad, one of my uncles, and I went through the neighbor's front entrance to check if someone needed help. We switched on every light downstairs and searched each room carefully. Every cupboard, every corner, every doorway. Nothing. The house looked perfectly normal. For a brief moment, the tension eased. Maybe whoever had tried the door had already fled. Then it happened. A heavy thud echoed from upstairs. A split second later came a loud crack, like weight pressing hard against old floorboards. Someone was moving above us. The sound froze me where I stood. Every instinct told me not to go any further. My dad and my uncle didn't hesitate. They rushed towards the staircase while I stayed behind, staring up into the darkness above. My pulse hammered in my ears. Each footstep they took upstairs seemed impossibly loud. Then everything exploded. Furniture crashed. Voices shouted. Something slammed against a wall. And suddenly my uncle let out a scream unlike anything I'd ever heard before. It echoed through the entire duplex, loud enough for my family on the other side to hear. That single scream told us everything had gone horribly wrong. Section 3. Seconds later, my dad came racing back down the stairs. My uncle stumbled close behind him, one hand pressed tightly against his lower shoulder and upper chest. Blood seeped between his fingers as he struggled to stay upright. He'd been stabbed. Nobody stopped to ask questions. Panic took over. We rushed back through the connecting doorway into our own side of the duplex. The moment everyone was safely inside, my dad slammed the door shut and locked it. Someone dialed 911. The operator had barely answered when another sound shattered the silence. Footsteps. Fast. Charging downstairs from the neighboring unit. Then, bang. The connecting door shook violently. Another hit. Then another. The entire frame rattled as someone hurled themselves against it from the opposite side. The impacts grew harder with each attempt. Wood splintered. Tiny chips fell onto our floor. Hairline cracks spread across the frame. The man on the other side wasn't trying the handle anymore. He was trying to break through. Between each deafening crash, we could hear him, grunting, yelling, almost roaring with frustration as he rammed the door again and again. My dad grabbed the largest kitchen knife he could find. One of my uncles armed himself with another. Without thinking, I grabbed one too, even though my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold it. They ordered everyone else to stay back. Nobody argued. The entire family stood frozen, watching the door bow inward with every impact. Each crash made us wonder if the next one would finally send it flying open. The police hadn't arrived. The door was beginning to splinter. Every second stretched into an eternity. Then, the banging stopped. No warning, no final shout, just silence. The quiet felt almost impossible after so much chaos. We waited without moving. Then we heard another sound, a front door opening, footsteps crunching rapidly through fresh snow outside. Whoever had attacked my uncle was leaving. Section 4. Nobody moved until my dad cautiously looked through the front window. The rest of us gathered behind him. Outside, illuminated by porch lights reflecting off the snow, a man sprinted across the yard. For just a few seconds we saw him clearly, long enough to remember his face forever. Before climbing into a black Honda Civic, he suddenly stopped and looked back towards our window. For a brief moment, our eyes met through the glass. It wasn't a frightened glance from someone escaping. It felt deliberate, almost as if he wanted us to know he'd seen us too. Then he climbed into the car and sped away, tires slipping across the slushy road before disappearing into the darkness. Police officers arrived shortly afterwards along with paramedics. My uncle survived the stabbing, but the questions only multiplied. Who was the man? Why had he been hiding upstairs? Why had he tried the connecting door before anyone searched the neighboring home? The investigation never gave us satisfying answers. Life slowly returned to normal, at least on the surface. Months passed. Christmas came around once again. Oddly enough, the same neighbors still lived next door. Despite everything that had happened, they were hosting another holiday gathering with several guests. I happened to be looking out from my bedroom window, casually watching people arrive. Then one man stepped out of a vehicle. The moment I saw his face, my stomach tightened. I knew him. There was no doubt in my mind. He was the same man who had attacked my uncle before fleeing into the snow. I called my dad immediately. He looked through the window himself. Without hesitation, he recognized him too. Neither of us believed it could possibly be a coincidence. If this really was the intruder, why would he now be attending a Christmas party with the very neighbors whose home he had supposedly broken into? Nothing about it made sense. But the more we thought about it, the more terrifying the answer became. Section 5. My dad decided we couldn't ignore what we'd seen. We walked next door together and confronted both the neighbors and the man we'd recognized. As calmly as possible, my dad explained exactly why we believed we'd seen him before. The man's expression barely changed. He denied everything. He insisted he'd never been there the previous Christmas. Before we could press him further, our neighbors stepped in. They defended him immediately. According to them, he was simply a friend visiting from out of state. They acted confused by our accusations and dismissed the entire story as some kind of misunderstanding. Standing there, listening to them, something felt deeply wrong. Not because we lacked proof, because their reaction seemed almost rehearsed. The more they spoke, the more convinced we became that everyone present knew far more than they were willing to admit. There wasn't enough evidence for police to reopen anything. No photographs, no recordings, only our memories of one horrifying night. Legally, there was nowhere else the conversation could go, but our certainty never faded. We believed the attack had never been the work of a random burglar. For reasons we'll probably never understand, we became convinced that our neighbors had been involved from the beginning. Whether they had invited that man into their home or planned something that spiraled out of control, we couldn't prove. Yet every piece of the puzzle seemed to point back towards them. The unanswered questions were almost harder to live with than the attack itself. How long had that man been hiding upstairs? Why had someone tried opening the connecting door before we entered their side of the duplex? What would have happened if that unusual lock hadn't required both sides to be unlocked? Those questions still have no answers. After that second Christmas, fear settled over our family in a way it never had before. The place that had once felt like home no longer felt safe. Every creak in the walls, every unfamiliar car outside, Every unexpected knock at the door reminded us of that night. About a month later, we packed everything we owned and moved away. We never saw those neighbors again. But every Christmas Eve, when the house grows quiet and everyone settles around the dinner table, I still remember the slow turning of that doorknob and wonder what might have happened if that door had opened